Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
John, we're back again this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about some football. Actually, we're going to talk a whole lot about football this week. But first, I wanted to say something real quick. I've had some people stop me just over the past few weeks, and I think this happened to you as well. People saying they listen to the show either right now when it's on the air or the podcast whenever that comes out, whenever I get it out each week. And I just want to thank them for stopping me and letting me know. One of the things that was a challenge a lot of times whenever I was in the newspaper business was a lot of people would read things, but you never knew if they were actually, whether
Right.
they were or not. And that it's not that I need affirmation for my work. It's just nice to know that we're just not speaking into the stratosphere, basically.
Yeah, it is kind of nice to know that occasionally people listen. Yeah.
Yeah, so, thank you for stopping us and letting us know. I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure you do as well.
Certainly.
You've told me several people through the few years we've been doing this as they've stopped you and said, they listen to the show. And it's even better when they stop and say, hey, you guys were dead on about something as well.
Yeah, they don't have to agree with us, but it's occasionally nice too, right?
Yeah, that's nice too. Like I said, I don't need affirmation. I just like to know that we're not just talking into the stratosphere out here. Let's start off with, I figured we really had two big games on Friday night, so we broke it up into two segments. But we're going to start with the Glasgow one. They beat Taylor County 31-20. Couple of things out of this.
In round one,
yeah. They'll be meeting again in probably in about 4 weeks. But a couple of things out of this. The first thing is Glasgow right now in 3A has the highest RPI.
come a long way from getting beat 50-something to nothing.
Yes. Meanwhile, Woodford County has not lost a game. That would have been nice not to be beat quite like that, but Woodford is the real deal this year.
Yeah, it does seem a long time ago.
Yeah, it absolutely was.
They were running clock first half. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, it does help their RPI. Getting beat 50-something nothing by a team in a higher class really doesn't affect you that much.
Yeah, there's no negative, actually, for Glasgow.
And the positive is, and I totally disagree with how they do the RPIs.
Yeah, I do too.
Is that if you beat a team in a class above you, you get bonus points.
Mm-hmm.
And they've beaten Greenwood, a 5A team, and Allen, a 4A team. So you get bonus points. I don't know if that's the greatest method in the world because, quite frankly, they are better than Allen and probably better than Greenwood.
Yeah.
So
they certainly proved that they were on the football field.
So I don't know if you deserve bonus points for that or not. But anyway, congratulations. It's still, Glasgow is, I think they clearly have moved themselves into throwing out RPIs and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're one of the top 5 teams in 3A, I think.
Yes. Well, and the thing about the RPI, I'm with you. I don't necessarily like the way they calculate this system, and they last year they monkeyed with it after the season started and added that if you play a team in a higher classification.
I can't see a Class A team being ahead of St. X.
No.
In the RPI, and they are.
Yeah, that's foolish, and they really shouldn't do an overall RPI because that's just a talking point for people to get on Twitter and argue with each other about, I guess. But within the classifications themselves, it is important because
it's seeding.
Yes, if Glasgow wins out, from the way I understand it, they will be at home until the state finals if they get there. They would get to host every round as long as they have the higher RPI. And so
that's why the RPI matters.
That is why it matters.
Well, that's why they need to fix it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
If you're going to put that much importance on it, it needs to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah. Now, I could be misunderstanding this as I just said that because, as I said, they monkey with this thing all the time. I may have missed something, but as I understand it, that's how this seeding system works now. Go after the district rounds there, but that means they'll be at home.
But they do the RPI for soccer.
Yes.
You got teams just right now starting in the semi-states traveling from here to Kalamazoo to play on Mondays and Tuesday nights.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I like the idea of a system that is a ranking system in terms of like playoff seeding and that kind of stuff. I don't like the way that this one is done at the moment.
Right.
But that's us to complain about it, I suppose, and talk about it. But the important fact is this is the way it works. And right now, Glasgow's in the driver's seat. for whatever comes next for them.
Good, and a good win. Let's get to the game. A good win against Taylor County.
Yeah. Taylor County has a freshman and 2 sophomores. They're all last name Smith. The Smiths came to Glasgow on Friday night, and they're good football players, and they have a good team. They don't throw the ball very effectively, and meanwhile, Glasgow, they were playing with John Carter Myers was playing on defense, but he had a cast on his left hand.
Had a big game on defense, as usual.
Had a big game on defense, but Easton Jesse took every snap at quarterback and had a solid game at quarterback. And the big thing about this was that Glasgow was able to throw the ball very specifically. I mean, they threw
7 times. 6 out of 7.
They missed one pass in the game, but they ran the ball effectively, and they were able to hit the big plays off the passing game. 1 to Hunter Scott and 2 passes to Corbin Wells, I think it was. 1 for a touchdown to Corbin Wells. So, they were able to execute the way they wanted to. So they ran their offense the way they wanted to. They played defense well enough. Taylor County tried some of their trick plays that they usually try.
Which is surprising. I don't know why you throw trick plays in a game that's, it's important, but it is not.
Yeah.
The more important game, they're going to play them again 4 weeks from now.
Well, and we talked about this last week. You expected to see vanilla on vanilla.
I thought so.
And we really didn't. I think both teams kind of came out and tried some things or did some things that would have surprised folks. Especially, I think, those passing plays and the seam routes that Easton Jesse hit. I'm sure that Coach Garman and Coach Myers have plenty of other tricks up their sleeve whenever they meet them again. But I'm with you. Taylor County is a team that generally runs some trick plays, but I didn't expect to see them on Friday night.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean, and they actually backfired on them. I mean, the biggest one they ran that worked for them was a fake pooch punt screen pass. I would not have wanted to put that one on film.
Right.
Because it was very effective and was a big play for them. But,
probably not going to get it again.
No, I mean, next time Glasgow will have that covered. They're not going to get suckered twice by that one. The Scotties played well. Like we said, Easton Jesse played well. Andrew Phillips played well. He had a couple of big plays. Kieran Stockton broke off, I think, a 45-yard touchdown run that basically iced it there at the end.
He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns. They balled him up early, but he's such a big kid that eventually I think people get tired of trying to tackle him.
The only negative was the injury to Hunter Scott.
That is correct. This was on Facebook. One of his parents put this on Facebook that they had the X-ray on Facebook, and it looked like the small bone in his ankle was broken. So that could be it for him for the season. I guess it might depend on how deep they go in the playoffs.
Sure.
But, yeah, they will miss him.
He's a big –
yeah.
That's a big loss. Now, luckily, they have a stable of people who can carry the ball and catch the ball.
Yeah.
But he also was a good defensive player, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a very important part.
Yeah. I mean, he was their leading rusher, I believe, coming into the game. He may not have been leading them in touchdowns, but he also was, I think, second in receiving yards on the team coming into the game.
Yeah, the key is if he can come back, the next 3 weeks, to me, are not that important.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Casey County. Franklin is their last regular season game. Who knows? And then their first round of the district, they will get by that game.
Yeah, they'll probably play Hart County again in the first round of the district. I was looking at it before we came on the air, and it looks like Hart County will wind up in that 4-seed slot. Because they've already beaten Casey. Adair's beaten Casey. I'm not going to say there's no way Glasgow goes to Casey and loses, but it'd be real hard.
Right.
It looks like Hart County would be the team they'd get in the first round, and they've already beaten them once pretty severely. So, yeah, I'm with you on these next 3 weeks. They should win the games, and the games shouldn't be that tough on them.
Well, Franklin could. I mean, Franklin's they could be, it's generally a physical game.
They are down this year, though.
They are down.
Yeah, they're down this year.
But that's not a walkover.
No. It'll be the toughest game on the schedule on these 3 weeks that we were just talking about. And then you get the Taylor County game, and like I said, I don't know what the prognosis is. I think the parent who put the thing on Facebook about Hunter said it was a season-ending injury. And it could be, but if you've got 6 weeks until you get, or 7 weeks until you get to the state finals or whatever that is, 6 weeks, I guess it is. I mean, if you can get there, he might be able to play in that game. There's a possibility. We've seen crazier things. How about that?
That's true.
It was a good win for him, and it was a big win for them. And I think,
what was the crowd like?
The crowd was kind of sparse because I think everybody thought a tornado was coming to town. And to be honest with you, I thought it was going to start raining, at some point in time during the game, and it didn't. It sprinkled some at halftime. But, yeah, it was actually a beautiful night for football. The rain that had come through earlier hadn't really affected the field that badly.
It was in a low 60s, high 50s. That's a good night to play.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night for football. One of the things that I think that we can take from Glasgow's run here, going back to Hunter's injury, it's bad for him and it's bad for the team. But they have, over the last couple of years, figured out how to take people and put them in places and still win games.
Well, they have not been reliant on one rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a really good job of spreading the wealth, utilizing multiple rushers. Mm-hmm. So that part is good. He has been their most effective, though.
Yeah.
And also been a really good defensive player.
Yeah.
So, it's still a loss, but their system, the way they run their system and the amount of players they can pull up will help them try to get by until he comes back.
Yeah. And the other thing is they have this group of sophomores, and there are several talented ones in that group that I'm sure they're going to have to lean on, and it's going to be their turn to step up. And like I said,
Glasgow historically has never been hurting for running backs.
No,
that has been a strength.
Some people would call it a running back school if you go back to the history. They've had some pretty good ones through the years.
They certainly have.
Anything else about that game or
well, you were there. I was at the Barren game.
Yeah.
So it's. I thought Glasgow would win.
Yeah.
Taylor County has turned into their biggest rivalry. Mm-hmm. And the game ended up being 31 to 20,
yeah.
But it was closer than that for most of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. They that screen pass that Taylor ran got them back in the game. I think that made it 19-14 at that point.
Right. And Taylor is not. I don't think this Taylor team is as good as the one they had a couple years ago.
No, I don't think it is. Now, I will tell you this, though. I'd be scared of them come next year because they got a bunch of young dudes who are going to be really good. So this is their kind of rebuilding year, I think. But, I mean, you look, they have a lineman. I think he's already gotten an offer from Kentucky. He's a sophomore. They got the two sophomore Smiths, and then they got the tailback Smith, who's just a freshman. I mean, they've got a bunch of young guys. So they also are kind of sitting on this season like, we're going to get as far as we can probably. Now, I don't know. Last year they couldn't throw the ball. This year they really can't throw the ball.
Yeah, eventually you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. It's a rarity. Sometimes you see it with. There's been a couple of single A teams that just never throw the ball at all.
Right.
Belfry or teams like that. But that's normally. It's hard to beat the best of the best unless you have some balance, some threat.
Yeah. So they were. They were good. They are not as good this year as they will be in the future.
Right.
And Glasgow, this is Glasgow's team, like we've talked about before. They kind of have this season circled with the mixture of their seniors and their sophomores, and enough filling in around there that they feel like this is their year. And they look good at it.
Yeah, you just got to stay healthy. That's a big loss, though. So I can't afford many more like that.
Yeah. I was going to mention a couple of other games before we get to this next segment where we talk about Barren County's football game. Bowling Green beat Greenwood 38-8 on Friday night. That score surprised me.
They never have lost to them.
No, they haven't. I mean, I wasn't surprised Bowling Green beat them, but the score surprised me, I guess. And then
it's a rare close game. It's generally not even close.
No, you're right.
It's not only have they won 30-something in a row.
Yeah,
but it's generally kind of like that score.
Yeah, it really is. And then Caverna beat Fort Campbell on Friday night. They beat them 20-6. They've won 4 games this year.
Good.
They are hosting Jackson County this coming Friday. It'll be their last home game. They're not playing a district schedule, so they just got 2 games left on their schedule. And then, as we mentioned, Glasgow's going to Casey. Hart beat Casey this past Friday 20-8. So, and then big game, unfortunately for Metcalf, it's a big game without their quarterback because they play Greene County this Friday. And that's Greene County's undefeated. They only won 2 games last year. They've come out of nowhere, really.
They really have. They've got a brand new coach, and he's coming from Ashland.
Yeah.
Done a super job. They've been benefited by an extremely easy schedule.
Yeah.
Outside of the Taylor County, I don't know if anybody on the schedule's got a winning record. I mean, Evanston has not won.
Yeah.
Clinton is way down.
Mm-hmm.
Monroe's down. I mean, Warren Central hasn't won, so they've not played the hardest schedule in the world. But they took care of business against Taylor, and it just say something to be 8-0.
Yeah. And this was the game we didn't know it.
They don't throw it very much at all either.
No, I would say that I don't know how this game's going to turn out. I would say if Peyton Dial was not hurt for Metcalf, I would still favor them in the game.
Right now, Green's a favorite.
Yeah, but they are definitely without Peyton out there. All right, those are some games just from around the area. We'll be right back. This is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's Glasgow.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, the Barren County Trojans, it sounded like they did everything they needed to do in the first half, especially on defense, but they just couldn't figure out how to score the points necessary to eventually win the game against North Hardin.
I think it's fair. I mean, Barren did play well defensively, but overall, I think it's arguably maybe their worst or second worst game.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, 5 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't afford to make mistakes.
Three interceptions, and 2 fumbles, 10 penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's by far the worst they've done penalty wise all season.
That's correct. So that part was, and the game was difficult to watch. I mean, to be honest with you, North Hardin had 15 penalties for 160 something yards. They had a couple of touchdowns called back with holding. I mean, sometimes you get these crews. I'm not saying they're right and they weren't wrong, but you get crews who, and I said it on the air, that look. They look out. They're searching for infractions.
Yeah.
And when you get those type, whether it's basketball or football, you're going to get more penalties as opposed to a crew who just watches the game and maybe you let them play and then you react to it.
Yeah.
And
25 penalties is quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it took the complete flow out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But Barren defensively did a good job. I mean, they forced North Hardin to punt several times. Now, in fairness, North Hardin, they dropped some and they had a couple of touchdowns called back.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, the first points of the game was an interception return for North Hardin, just like against Central Hardin.
Yeah.
Defensively, we were doing what we needed to do, but just couldn't get enough sustained. We had 2 good drives, and one drive ended in a fumble at about the 18 off basically it was unforced. It was an exchange between the center and the quarterback. And the other one, we got back in the game, we were down. In fact, North Hardin only scored 1 offensive touchdown.
Yeah. That's kind of the way those games have gone the last couple of years.
1 offensive touchdown. 1 was a defensive touchdown and 3 field goals.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it's a really good defensive effort.
Yeah.
And the one drive in the third quarter, we did march it about 65 yards down the field and Donovan Bradshaw, powered in there. But it was a tough game to get into any flow with all the injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about all the penalties. And then North Hardin had 2 turnovers and we had 5 turnovers. And if you're going to knock off a North Hardin, you can't turn it over 5 times.
Yeah.
It's just impossible to do that. Now North Hardin plays I think they're a strange team, I'll be honest with you. They throw it 2 times more than they run it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they run it, they only run it with one guy.
Yeah.
Their one guy ran it like 14 times. None of that, they threw it about 25, 30 times.
Yeah.
And it just seems maybe that's the style they think gives them the best chance to knock off, I don't know, the Trinities and those games.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, they're in spread all night, and when they do, they rarely ever under center, and they just don't run it much. And the running back that ran it against us had 200 and something yards the week before 2 weeks before against Central Hardin.
Yeah,
they didn't carry it a lot, but he had like 12 carries for 200 and something yards. But I don't know. I just think it's a little bit of a strange way. Now, the quarterback's got a monster arm.
Yeah.
Wimberly is his name. I mean, he can really
He was really the only offensive player back from the team they've had the last couple of years.
Big time arm.
Yeah.
But, his receivers were got good speed, but you got to catch it. And Barren does, Tommy does a really good job defensively.
Yeah. You were talking about the mistakes and whatnot, the penalties and the turnovers. I guess in the nature Barren needed to play a clean game like they have been all year, and like they did basically against Central Hardin.
Yeah, penalties have not been a problem.
No.
We had 10. Now, I think part of it was just the way the game was called.
Yeah.
Because the other team had 15.
Right.
But you can't have the 10, and the 5 turnovers was just.
Yeah, that's the part that if they're.
We have not done that hardly at all. So, in North Hardin, their speed does cause trouble, both offensively and defensively. You know, quarterback Childress, he did not have a lot of time to throw. I mean, they put a lot of pressure on and things like that. But still, if you want to pull an upset off, North Hardin's the best team that we've faced. They're not a great team.
Yeah.
They're
not as good as they have been.
They've
for
won two games, but they've lost to Boyle County and Danville,
right.
South Warren. They've played a top level competition.
Yeah, they have.
But they're not a great team. But they're the best team we faced, and we did not. Just didn't. It was a little uncharacteristic. It was very characteristic how well we played defensively, but the turnovers and the penalties was a little out of normal. No personal fouls, no unsportsmanlike conduct for us.
Right.
They had 3 unsportsmanlike.
Really?
But we didn't have any of that.
Yeah. Well, and that's Barren certainly. I don't know if they've had one all year.
Maybe one of all. So discipline's been very good.
Yeah.
A side note now, Jackson Arms was taken off in an ambulance.
Okay.
They did not move him and thought he had a neck injury and so forth. But if anybody's, he's fine.
Okay. Good.
He was at school today walking around, so he didn't have any.
Yeah, he's not still in the hospital or anything.
No. And I don't have a clue if he'll play this week or whatever, but he was walking around okay. So it was purely precautionary, and he's fine. So just want to give that message out.
Yeah, because I think somebody had texted me after the game Friday night and said that he was taken off in an ambulance, and they were asking me about it. And I was like, I don't know anything, but I'm glad you did update us on that because I'm sure there were people who did wonder, how severe it was and that kind of stuff. Barren County is in an interesting position, though. They did lose that game. They could afford to lose that game and still meet the goal they want to meet, which is to play a home playoff game.
They need to beat Meade Friday.
Yeah. And Meade, for whatever reason, has been a complete bugaboo for the Trojans. I mean, I was just going through what was available, the last 5 meetings or 7 meetings, whatever it is, between Barren and Meade. Barren's not beaten Meade.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of amazing, to be honest with you. You would think that would be the team that they would beat. I don't know what the deal is, but they need to win that game. And truthfully, they need to hope this North Hardin beat Central Hardin in their meeting so that they wind up with a clean second place and not Central Hardin beating North Hardin and we get some sort of tiebreaker business and have to work that out because the tiebreaker may be based on RPI, and Baird would finish 3rd in that particular setup from what I understand.
Well, Meade is down.
Yeah.
But they were down last year, too.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just a matchup that both teams are fairly similar. I mean, Meade doesn't have great speed or anything like that, but it's just a game where – but, what I found, when you're down, for the most part, if you're 6A down, you're still decent.
Yeah.
It's not like Meade can beat half the teams in the state.
Yeah,
say that Central Hardin can beat half the teams in the state.
Yeah,
it's part of it is who you play, and Meade plays a lot of the Louisville schools.
Yeah, well, and we talked about Meade before. I mean, they usually play a pretty tough schedule
because they're used to playing at a high level.
Yeah,
they're just now still playing that schedule, but their talent has dropped.
Yeah, and their one win this year is 16-3 over Elizabethtown. So I mean, that's a generally impressive win. Now Elizabethtown's not as good this year as they were last year, obviously. They're 4-4, but still, that's a team that when somebody beats them, you do go, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not as bad as they look on paper.
It's a long trip to Meade County now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid hour and 45 minutes.
Was it Brandenburg?
It's Brandenburg, yeah. It's the other side of E-Town, other side of Ratcliffe. So it takes a while to get up there. It's not an easy Friday journey to get out and, get up there and play a football game.
Yeah, you can leave early and go by the Patton Museum if you like.
You certainly can. Go through Fort Knox.
I had to guard that thing one night when I was in basic training. It's a lot of fun. So it's an interesting setup for the Trojans. If they can win that game, then they
got to play better offensively.
Yeah,
that's the big deal.
Yeah, because I would say right now we have no question that Tommy's defense is playing really well.
Right. I mean, it's not easy. And listen, in fairness to Will Childress, this will be only his 3rd game he started.
Yeah.
They've lost a 3-year starter in Jamison Bowie, who's a really good player.
And maybe that was one of the things, again, not to knock Will Childress, but I mean, you lose that experience, and that probably would have helped out on Friday night.
Sure, and he just so happened to take over against the strongest teams on our schedule, too.
Yeah, right. And, you know, I don't know, but it looks like for the most part he played okay in certain circumstances. He just struggled in others, probably.
Well, I mean,
the pressure probably didn't help.
I mean, North Hardin's pass rush was, they are quick. It's the first thing we played all year, too, that did not platoon anybody. They had 11 starters on offense, 11 different ones on defense.
Yeah.
And they had some good-sized guys, and obviously they have, speed on the defensive ends and so forth.
Yeah. Anything else about that game or the Meade County game you can think of that people should know?
No, I mean it's a win. Meade County will be a winnable game, but Meade County thinks the same way.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and it's Barren is not going to intimidate anybody in our district. We haven't earned that yet.
Right.
So Meade thinks, hey, we got an opportunity as well to get to get our first district win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if the way this kind of breaks up at the moment, I think last year it ended up there were 3 teams at 1 and 2, and Barren ended up on the short end of that. I think that was on RPI as well. So they definitely want to avoid that, and the only way to do that is go to Brandenburg and win the football game.
That's right.
It's pretty cut and dry, John.
Pretty cut and dry.
All right, it's Brown Sports Bag. This is the Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, I feel like after we discussed that Barren County football game, Kentucky was in the same circumstance with Georgia. Basically, they could not make any mistakes, and they had to have some things go their way. And right there, early in the game, maybe it was in the second quarter, it was in the first quarter, where they had the fumble that they didn't get on, and the dude was thought he was going to intercept a pass, and then he was unhappy, and then Georgia ended up scoring on that drive. I think that was their first scoring drive. And it was just one of those moments where Kentucky needed to get that ball. They needed to take advantage of that situation, because I thought overall they played pretty well in certain ways. It's just that Georgia is just that good right now.
Yeah, Georgia's better than Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky didn't play bad.
No, they
didn't. I would not have dropped them in the polls. I would have. I don't know why they dropped from 11 to 15.
Because they're Kentucky, and it's it's a basketball school.
I mean, that's ludicrous. They played Georgia really well.
See, and I agree, and that's also why I think they really needed to get a play like that early in the game and get something out of it.
I think it was important they scored late with 2 seconds. I think I said last week on the air, 31-7 is what I was calling.
Yeah.
And of course, that 2 seconds, and Stoops took a little heat by some people for calling timeout and score, because that, from a betting perspective, that was a big touchdown.
Vegas flipped upside down for some folks.
When you're a 22-point underdog, and now you get it to 31-14, that gets it under the 22. It made a lot of people happy and some people mad. But I don't blame him for doing it. I was shocked at the criticism. With 2 seconds to go and you're behind, you might as well try to score.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the object of the game.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was 80 yards away. He was 2 yards away. And I do think when part of college football is rankings and how you look and play and score, because it all kind of factors into what bowl you go to or can you get in the playoffs, you're almost forced to do it that way.
Well, the fact that they did drop 4 spots is proof of how few people actually watch those games.
And that's true. And plus, that was a 7-minute drive, too.
Yeah.
Or maybe as long as 11-minute drive.
Yeah.
You might as well try to score. I don't have any problem trying to score that way.
Well, and after watching the game, I agree with you on the quarterback. I think they have all the pieces in place to. I mean, when I look
He's
down
not
there.
Bad at all. He's an upgrade, actually.
I like the way he moved around in the pocket.
He does
he threw some good balls. It's just sometimes people underrate the competition.
Yeah.
So they look at the outcome and they think, well, Kentucky didn't play well. No, Georgia's just that good.
Levis is, you put him on Georgia, he's just as good as Georgia quarterback.
Yeah, I'd say he is.
Probably better.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, and being perfectly honest with you, but Georgia's defense is so good.
Yeah.
And they have so much talent with their running backs and all that other stuff. It's they're going to be a bear. I mean, they will be hard to beat. I mean, you're going to have to I mean, it's going to be hard to score. Nobody scored 20 points on them yet.
Yeah.
Now, can they hold Alabama or somebody like that? I don't know. We'll see. But right now, they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, I'd say they absolutely are. I take a little off on this real quick. Saturday, whenever Purdue and Iowa were getting ready to play, I told my son, I said, Purdue's going to beat Iowa. And he later, after they did, and it wasn't close, Purdue beat Iowa pretty soundly.
They did.
He texted me and said, "Oh, you should have bet some money on that." I said, "Yeah, well, I could have just as easily lost that money." But the reason I had just looked at these numbers, and Iowa's offensive numbers were terrible.
Yes,
I mean, their defense.
Iowa's always overrated.
Yeah,
I mean,
they shouldn't have been number 2.
No, they're not. I mean, Iowa plays the same way every year.
Yeah,
I mean, they're good defensively. They got good offensive linemen. Quarterbacks are just okay, and they have a hard time scoring points. And so, the Big Ten, you take away Ohio State in the last 10, 15 years, you see these upsets every week.
Yeah. Well, and
you don't know who will beat who.
Jeff Brom is now 4-1 against Iowa at his time in Purdue, and I'd actually seen that number 2, and I was like, he just knows how.
And he played 3 quarterbacks that game.
Yeah, I know. He's just wheeling and dealing up there and with the Boilermakers, I guess. Anyway, that was just a quick aside just to point out back to these poll things. I mean, I don't know who the number 2 team in the country is. I just know that right now Georgia's number 1, and it looks like they're number 1 by a pretty big gap whenever you put together how good their defense is. And I knew it was good before the game, but I was even more impressed after watching them. And
I think it's pretty clear right now the top 4 teams.
Yeah, who'd you go with?
I think just the top 4 are Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I think Cincinnati's proven it.
Yeah. Now look, they're impressive as well.
I mean, they won at Notre Dame. I don't know what else you want them to do. They won it. They went to Indiana and won, so they've you can't help their schedule other than that. But they are winning impressively. I would definitely keep them in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and now if Alabama loses again, they're out. That'd be 2 losses. But it's hard to say that Alabama's not. I mean, outside of Georgia and Oklahoma and school I just said, I mean, Texas A&M beat them, but Texas A&M has 2 losses.
Yeah. No, and it's going to be, Alabama will still just win that West. It'll break down that way. And so, they'll
have to play Georgia.
Yeah, they'll have to play Georgia in that SEC championship game, and it'll be an interesting.
If Georgia beats Alabama,
matchup.
they're out.
Yeah.
If Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia probably stays in.
Yeah, I would say that's the way it works out. You wind up with 2 SEC schools
and Ohio State will make their usual big run at the end of the year. Yeah. And so Cincinnati's no lock because they don't get the national respect.
Yeah. But, their schedule strength is like 82 or something, like remaining games, and that's just because of the conference they're in, which is why they're getting out of the conference.
That's correct.
So that's the way that works out. Real quick, the Hilltoppers offense was impressive. They did the thing they've not done all year. They actually scored in the first quarter.
Good,
and that set the tone.
Well, they needed a win.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, I don't think Old Dominion's that strong. I mean, obviously not. They only had 1 win as well. And they've not played a schedule as strong as WKU has. But I thought the thing that was most impressive to me about the game was the fact that the Hilltoppers came out, put up 14 points early, and that just set the tone. That's just something. That's the first time they've done that this year, no matter what the game is.
Played with a lead.
Yeah, and they proved to be good enough in that kind of scenario. I think when you look down their schedule. They do not have UAB, and they do not have.
Would anybody be surprised they ended up 7-4?
No, and
they have to win out.
Yeah, I would say that the rest of the schools on their schedule, they should win those games if they come out and play like they did Saturday. I would say they wouldn't have a problem winning those games, because the 2 teams. I think they have Marshall at the very end of the season. I think I'd say that's the last team on their schedule. I don't know if Marshall's that good this year, but. Marshall and WKU, they usually play some pretty tough games. So it's become a pretty good rivalry over the last few years. But, yeah, they needed to win that. And then Louisville, of course, they got to have Saturday off and regroup. That must have been good for Cardinals fans. They probably needed a weekend off, John.
Probably not, actually. after losing back-to-back weeks, field goals or a missed field goal themselves and losing big leads, too. That's the issue with Louisville. Louisville's got a good team, but their record doesn't back it up.
Right.
They got an opportunity. They still have Clemson, but they've got some winnable games too, Boston College and things like that. So they still have a winning record, but they have Clemson and UK. It's two big ones still on their schedule.
That's true. You mentioned Boston College. I think they play this Saturday.
Yeah, they have to. That's a must.
Yeah, they absolutely have to win that one. Meanwhile, the Hilltoppers are at Florida International this Saturday, and then the following Saturday they host Charlotte. That's their homecoming. And the Wildcats have 2 weeks off, and then they play at Mississippi State, I think. Yeah, at Mississippi State.
They got a double buys?
Well,
1 week.
Well, 2 weeks from this past Saturday.
Okay, yeah. We got 1 week.
We're closer to this past Saturday than the coming Saturday. I guess I think of it that way.
Then they have Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Mike Leach. Is that at home or away?
That's at Mississippi State, I believe. I believe it's in
That'd be a tough one.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that seems to cook up things, even though his team's not really very good.
Everywhere he goes, he wins. I mean, he's an oddball, but he's successful. I mean, he really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no disgrace they lost to Alabama. Alabama coming off a loss. It's not shocking that Alabama beat Mississippi State.
You know what was funny? There were some people who had this little meme on Twitter, Mississippi State fans, and I don't remember what the thing is, but basically it said, "We're sorry we didn't beat you. Texas A&M did. Don't hurt us."
Yeah, Mississippi State beat Texas A&M.
Yeah, so I mean, it was Mississippi State fans. They knew what was about to come for them.
And don't forget Tennessee.
Yes.
Did you watch that?
I did not.
Oh, that was an incredible ending of the game.
Was it? Tell me about it.
You're acting surprised.
No, tell me about it.
A man of the media does not know how the game ended with Tennessee and Ole Miss with about a 30-minute delay with all the...
I thought you were talking about the game itself, not the things that happened on the sideline.
The game was fun, too.
Yeah.
But I think they got fined, Tennessee got fined today, $250,000.
Yes.
I thought that was not enough.
Yeah, because, man, they were unruly.
Because UK got $250,000 for storming the field after a win. I thought this was even a more dangerous situation.
Well, they were throwing golf balls at the man, so yeah.
Not at just him, they were throwing at everything.
Yeah.
What was shocking to me was I think they should have called the game. I know Tennessee had a shot to come back, and they did. Mm-hmm. But do you deserve it when Tennessee had to get their own cheerleaders off the field? They got their band off the field.
Yeah.
They got their dance team off the field because all the stuff that's being thrown down was hitting them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
I hit the point. Yeah, well, so they hit the 30-minute delay. How do they not round the people up and throw them out? I just don't really. I don't get that part.
I don't know if they could identify enough people. Who knows?
I mean, throw them all out. Just empty the stadium and then finish the game.
But it goes back to what we talked about in the past. So it's either the post-COVID situation, which people are being up, or the freedom people have gotten, the courage people have gotten with Twitter and all this other stuff.
It's shamelessness.
That people feel like they have that power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we have a referee shortage in high school sports and youth sports is because people get tired of being berated and treated that way.
Yeah.
Same thing with coaches. You got a coaching problem right now too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think all that is sort of kind of in a weird way tied together.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this last year.
You don't like a call and you throw things on the field that could hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, that was...
And plus they don't like Lane Kiffin either. I
know that's a whole different level with Lane Kiffin.
That's correct.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to hit a delay in the game and you plan on finishing the game, I'm not sure you don't just empty the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's 100 and some odd thousand people there in Tennessee.
I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with officers just canceling. Going, listen, you don't deserve this extra minute to try to come back.
Well, and I'm with you. The fine is not enough. I do believe if they'd have just called the game right then and Tennessee just loses no matter what. Of
course, they may have felt like that would have caused a riot.
It may have caused a riot, but heck, it was nearly a riot by the end of that game anyway.
Exactly right. It's unsafe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's the one thing. I've been to a ton of sporting events.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never, ever, ever had the desire to throw something on the field. I've also never had the desire to run out on the field. These things I don't relate to.
Yeah.
I don't even relate to booing. I mean, I really don't. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't get that part.
I don't know. I've never booed at any sporting event.
Yeah,
not once. I've been a bad parent once that I can recall. And actually, it was a bad example. It wasn't what I actually did. It's just that I said something that was a bad example when one of my children was getting beat up in a soccer game.
Right.
So that's that one time. But
unless you have self-awareness.
Yeah, well, I mean, as soon as I said it, I was like, well, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But, your daughter's getting run over by somebody in a soccer game. You kind of get a little worked up sometimes.
Yep.
But I've never yelled at the coaches. I never got onto the coaches. I never yelled at other players on the teams.
Never picked a rock up and threw it at people?
No, never really done that.
Right.
There's a lot of things I've not done. And, yes, I'm with you. It is this kind of mass hysteria, this mob mentality that has pervaded so many different aspects of life at this particular moment.
Right.
And I don't know what to do about it other than to cancel the events and make your team pay for the cancellation by your actions.
There has to be consequences.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that fine is, you're correct. The fining.
They had 102,000 people. They can pay for that.
Yeah. I mean, that fine is sort of like when they fine NBA players, like $5,000 or even $50,000 for something. I mean, they don't feel that. Something's got to happen where they actually feel it.
I think the school feels it. It's the people that are perpetrating the act does not feel it.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, the school, that's a big hit.
Yeah.
That's a huge hit for the school, but not for the people throwing things and acting that way.
In today's world of camera definition and that kind of stuff, they can pick those people out. Not all of them, but they can pick out enough of them probably and never let them back.
That's correct.
I mean, that's really what they need to do.
Yep.
And Tennessee needs to do that, not the NCAA or whatever. Tennessee needs to do that. Real quick, let's talk a little bit about some NFL where there were no fan riots or whatever, as far as I know. When you asked me about that, I thought you were talking about the game itself. I was like,
nope.
The game?
Nope.
Oh, yeah. Although, one last thing. I was amused by the fact that the guy threw the water bottle at Lane Kiffin as he was leaving he caught it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just amusing to me. Everybody's like ducking and he just catches it. So back to some NFL stuff here. I thought the Ravens' win against the Chargers was probably one of the more impressive wins of the season.
Lamar's pretty good.
Yeah, he ain't bad. I mean, look, Again, the thing I like about him is
I just like it. He's a cool cat now.
He is.
He's unbelievable leadership skills.
Yeah,
because he doesn't think highly of himself.
Right.
That's what I like about him. He's just a cool dude. Also, doesn't have an agent.
True.
He is his own. He and his mother take care of all that stuff.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't cost him some money. But I mean, maybe he's going to take the amount of money he needs and
I don't think it
keep the team together.
Yep.
And there was the Chargers had gone for it.
And Louisville's giving him statute at Cardinal Stadium in November.
Yeah, they're retiring his statute. What is he? He's the only second player to have the number retired. Johnny Unitas being the other.
Correct.
Johnny Unitas, who played college football for Frank Camp, who used to be the head football coach at Glasgow in the 40s.
Yep.
Little tidbit for you people. Anyway, so what impressed me, though, was the Chargers had gone for it deep in their own territory.
Which they do.
That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And then the Ravens get the ball back. Lamar misses the first pass, and the second pass he throws perfectly, and the guy drops it.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown. He's known to drop a few. I've got him in fantasy football. I know this.
You keep up with his drop statistics?
No, I've got Lamar.
Oh, okay. So that's why
I've lost like 5 touchdowns to Hollywood Brown because he can't catch the ball.
Well, but what I loved about that particular little sequence was
he went over and patted him on the helmet.
Even before that. So after he missed the pass to the tight end, which he just threw in the wrong place, he actually the route, it wasn't the same player, but the route was more or less the same, and the pass needed to be thrown in the same place. And he threw it in the right place this time. So he corrected his throw from one play to the next. Then he didn't, like you said, he went over there, he told Hollywood Brown, it's going to be fine, this is all good. And he comes back out on the next drive and was just absolute money. Lamar Jackson was, and Hollywood Brown had a good big catch on that particular drive.
He did.
I mean, everything about
he's my favorite player.
Yeah,
Lamar is.
Everything about that particular game and everything, and Lamar Jackson's body language and how that team responds to him is just it's impressive.
Yes,
really.
it is.
I thought that was a big win, and then the Cardinals just ran over the Browns. Now I know the Browns have injury issues.
They do,
but the Cardinals are undefeated, and after that game, I decided they might actually be for real.
They're for real.
I wasn't convinced. I mean, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and
they're
it
going
just
to
hasn't.
they're going to hit a wall.
Yeah.
But they are for real, and they're all in too. They just traded and picked up Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Ertz as well.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, they're all in. Do I think they're going to win it? No. I don't, but they are all in.
Yeah. So yeah, they're pretty exciting. And I will tell you this.
I think they're the fourth best team just in their conference.
Well, that's probably true.
I think Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, and then them.
Yeah.
I like those other three better than them.
Yeah, that NFC playoffs are going to be pretty interesting.
Yes.
As long as no one gets hurt.
And
the caveat in the
somebody
NFL.
will. Yep.
And right now, man, the Bills and the Ravens look like the two best teams in the AFC, I think.
Yes, probably right. Yeah, Kansas City be the third one.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes, everything that he can do well, the Chiefs just have some issues defensively that they're going to have to.
Yeah, and it's hard to sustain what they've done. This is Super Bowl champions, then getting beaten in the runner-up, and then the third year. That's a lot of football. So it's a natural. They do fall back a little bit. That's probably more normal than anything. Yeah.
Speaking of the Bills, they play the Titans tonight. It's a big game for the Titans, really. And the Bills have had a hard time dealing with Derrick Henry over the last couple of years. So it's kind of a nice matchup for the Titans, has been.
Yep.
But Josh Allen they're just a lot of fun.
These are the type of games the Titans play well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are kind of inconsistent a little bit. They'll probably play well tonight. Whether it's good enough or not, I don't know.
Yeah. You can hear that game on 105.3 The Point whenever it comes on tonight. What is that, 7 o'clock or so, I think is when it'll – I think the airtime may be 6:30 for the pregame.
Yep.
All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we are nearing the end of the fall sports season. We've already put soccer and golf to bed, and the playoffs for volleyball start tonight. We at the 15th District over at Glasgow High School. Glasgow and Allen County will be, what do they call it? Serving off? I don't know.
Starting.
You got tip-offs and kickoffs and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what you call it in volleyball. But, yeah, they play at 5 o'clock, so pretty much I'll be running over there as soon as the show's done. And then Barren plays Monroe in the game after that. The winners will play tomorrow night at 6, I believe it is, over at Glasgow High School. So here we are approaching that, close in on that. And then the cross-country postseason begins Friday, actually. Glasgow runs in the 2A, I think it's Region 2, 2A meet that's going to be at the Hardin County Fairgrounds. They're running Friday, and then Barren County is running Saturday morning over there. I don't know. Barren has a couple of runners on the girls' side, especially, that will have a chance probably to win that region with Gracie Reed and Chesney McPherson.
Top 10. Yeah, for sure.
And so I've not broken down the actual comparison meet results about who else is in their region. I just know they've been right up there all year long.
They've been really good.
Yeah,
best that we've had in a long time. I mean, they're running with the best girls in the state.
Yeah. The downside for both of them is that the best runner in the state is in their same, not their same region. I don't think she's same class. Yeah. So O'Shea, I think is her name, and so they'll have she's a junior. So Chesney's a sophomore and Gracie's a 8th grader. So they got to contend with her for a couple of years.
That's right.
But yeah, so they have a good chance. And then Glasgow's got a couple of runners, I think, boys and girls, who can make run for the state. I don't know in their region if they're at the top of their region or not. They're all running. On the girls' side, Mia Cassidy's running in the 21s, which is a good time. On the boys' side, they have a couple who run in the 19s. That's going to put them back a little bit, I think. But yeah, so they get started. Kind of amazing. We've hit this part, John.
Well, basketball practice started Friday.
Yeah,
15th.
Right. Yeah, we'll be a couple of things we'll be doing. We'll be sending out the emails to get the basketball coaches in here to talk to us as we get ready for this season to come up.
Hopefully, we have a clean season without COVID stoppages. That's really leveled off here.
Yes, it has.
We haven't mentioned very many for a long time.
Yeah, the cancellations have dropped significantly.
That's great news.
Yeah. So and hopefully, We don't know what the masking situation will be. It's down to the school districts at this point for basketball season. So we'll see what that looks like as basketball gets started. Right now, you're still required to wear a mask, indoors at the schools, as far as I know.
All right.
So, that may still be the case come basketball season. So just be prepared for that and try not to harass the people at the door because they're just following the rules.
And volleyball season.
Yes. I've had to wear it indoors for all these volleyball matches. And then another thing I wanted to mention, it was released, I think, this morning or last night, the Kentucky Golf Coaches Association released their regional rankings for their players. And Nina McMurtry had the most points in the third region, so she was the third region player of the year.
That's good.
Bailey Birdsell, Lena Harlow, Grayson Flatt, they were all on there, and Landry Steenbergen also made the all-region team. On the boys' side, Jameson Corbin made the all-region team. So solid seasons from all of those guys. On the girls' side, they're all seniors, so great way to finish up with their careers. I don't know how many of them plan on going and playing in college. I'd say there are 2 or 3 of them will. And then, like we mentioned before, Jameson's just a sophomore, so he has a good chance to come back next year and add to that. Anything have you watching the Major League Baseball playoffs? You into this?
As best I can. It just the games are too long.
Yes,
I mean it's ridiculous. I mean you can't play between college football and Major League Baseball. They got a problem. Mm-hmm. College football is a great game, but it's 4 hours, 4:15.
Yeah.
There's one rule change they can make, and they could fix that. If you get a first down, the clock shouldn't stop.
Yeah.
They don't do it in the NFL. They got to stop that because these, for many reasons, the game's too long. It increases injuries because there's so many more plays, blah, 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 all that stuff. Major League Baseball is ridiculous because starters aren't going 4 innings anymore. They're taking out Cy Young Award winners in the 4th, and, they're pitching, 6 pitchers a game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to – the games are compelling. A lot of – the Braves are up 2-0 over the Dodgers, and both were walk-offs.
Yeah.
They're compelling, but daggone to get to there. To 4.5 hours.
It's like, can we skip the first 8 innings and just get to the 9th and see how it works out?
For most average people, it's just hard. And finding where the baseball games are is not easy either.
Yeah.
It's on, Fox Sports 1 or Fox or TBS or the Major League Baseball channel. They need to get a hold of that, to be honest with you, because that's the tough part. So, the baseball games are fun.
Yeah.
The Red Sox and Houston are tied 1-1. Their third game's tonight. And Atlanta, surprisingly, has a 2-0 lead over the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It's, for all the Atlanta fans, I know they're feeling good about it, but to me, as somebody who likes baseball, man, it's hard to watch. So hard to stay with it the whole time.
I
have a hard time getting through a whole college football game.
Well, I was going to say I'm with you on that. I don't know.
The NFL's got it down.
Yeah.
They 3 hours, may go to 3:10, but that's it.
Yeah, I'm with you on how that works out. I just cannot watch baseball on TV. I really just can't do it
because of the length, right?
Yeah, I just get bored too easily, and I go do something else. I'm a little bit of a hyperactive person anyway, but I just can't do that, and I have a hard time sticking through a college football game. What's the one rule change that they should make? Eliminate the clock stoppage on first down. I tell you another thing I don't really like that they're doing right now in college.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah, it is. That would speed up the game. And also, the interesting thing, I think that actually benefits.
The fake injuries is out. Kentucky's the world's worst.
Yeah.
The defensive players.
There were lots of complaints about that from the weekend.
It happens.
Yeah.
They fake the injury. It stops the clock, and they can rest and whatever and strategize. They got to – if – I don't know what to do other than if you go down, you can't come back in for like 5 plays. Maybe that'd stop it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. I also don't kind of like the way that they initiate the replays on certain plays in college football and for every game.
Yep.
That's kind of I watched that Cincinnati game, and that part kind of wore me out because Cincinnati was killing them. And they were beating up on Central Florida pretty handily.
Yeah, it's hard to get a flow to watch a game right now.
And I was just like, okay, I've seen
it's a great sport. It's compelling and does all that stuff. It's too long.
Yeah. All right, Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.